Hey guys, this is Vince with Practical Performance. As I'm installing VinceSkinz, base Stage VinceSkinz on this 330i convertible, and I have this apart, I thought I'd get into some more depth about what's happening inside of this and around and inside this front right subframe mount. And I'm going to be using these pictures as guidance. Let's start with a bit of orientation in this area to match what we see here with the picture I'm using for orientation. So first of all, we know that there is a threaded receiver and there's some sort of base plate that the receiver is attached to, and then in turn attached to the outer skin here with the spot welds. So it's probably a funky shape, and it actually is. So this black outline here, that is the outline of the actual base plate itself. You could think that the base plate is flat, so flat as this area here. But why then this dent? So there's a dent in here, and there's typically a crack here when it comes to a later stage. Why would it dent if there's a thick base plate here? Well, having a look at the picture again, this area here, the hatched area, is sort of stamped into the base plate to probably stiffen it. So here we go. Imagine now we're looking at this from the top, from the inside down. This is that I've cut an opening right beside the top of the mount, and this wider section here is what we see there, and it sort of curves away this direction here, and it goes more narrow. So that would be this. And then from this sort of in front of the mount, the threaded receiver, you see there's a sort of a ridge going that way as well. So that is this. You can easily verify this cavity here by just tapping this and then hearing the different sounds. So that's pretty solid. And moving over here, it's sort of hollow, and it is hollow. That's the cavity. So, okay, so knowing that, we know that this could be pounded upwards, make the dent. That makes sense. So I'd like to take a step back and have a look at the front stud that goes into the front mount and onto which the front bushing is sitting. So this goes up into the hole, and this shiny surface here, or the clean surface I should say, is what sits on this area here. And that is also, it's quite a small area actually, and the edge of this is what creates this indentation here. So this is at a pretty early stage. So there is no crack here. This is just an indentation because the whole subframe moves around. It goes up and down as you're accelerating and braking, but it also moves a little bit, ever so slightly, tips back and forth and side to side. This movement has the base plate come up and down and move all sorts of directions, and what's holding it back is this, the structure around it, the skin, if you will. So as this is moving, this is not moving as much, and then so we create this. Well, we don't create it. This indentation is created. Okay, so that said, again, why the dent? So this is the factory bushing. And as you probably know if you're viewing this video, we have these two lips. The bushing sits like this. So that surface, sorry, I only have two hands. So this surface here, it rests on, so it rests on that surface there. And most of the time, this is what takes the load up and down. However, when you're hitting the gas really hard, so there's there's typically a little bit of a gap between the lip and the underside here. But as you're hitting the gas, there's more movement. Remember, the movement goes into the bushing here with the subframe grabbing the outer sleeve here. So this goes up and down. Most of that force goes in through there into there. But again, with enough force, there's movement in the rubber. So the inner sleeve here moves relative to the outer, and thus the lip slams in to the rear axle carrier panel skin here. So another way, sorry about that, another way of explaining this, sorry about that, I'm looking for my pointer. So these red areas here, they are the lips, or actually they are where the lips hit the outer skin and also the underlying structure, the base plate, sorry. So as you can see, the lip hits this area where we have the cavity. So obviously we're now pounding in, we're creating that dent. Let's have a look at the picture again. I was talking about how the subframe, the rear axle, has the base plate moving up and down and tilting ever so slightly. The only thing holding the base plate, again, to the underside skin here are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spot welds. So these 5 spot welds, these small areas, are subject to quite a lot of stress when this goes up and down and back and forth and tilting. But to be more precise, the way it works is that this area here is solidly connected to the inside base plate. The surrounding area is not, so there's no connection, no connection, no connection, and right here there's a stress concentration because we go from nothing to full contact, if you will. And when we say that a spot weld pops, it's actually not the spot weld, it's the material around the spot weld. So it starts with fatigue, so it's moving up and down like this, and it starts to crack and then that goes all the way around. Let's have a look at this. So here's a spot weld on the rear left mount that has what we call popped. So you can see that the material that used to be this material has now followed the base plate up. They have separated. So again, it cracks around the spot weld. That's what happens when a spot weld pops. So this area here around the stud is much like a large spot weld. The mating surface of the stud clamps the inner structure, so the base plate and the outer skin together, just like a spot weld will do. And again, as there's a firm connection here and nothing out here, there's going to be movement, there's going to be stress concentration, ultimately leads to cracking. Now, knowing this, let's have a look at the picture again. So the blue line here represents a typical cracking pattern. I'm not saying this, it's limited to this, and it always looks like this, but it's pretty typical. So we can see that we have the cracking around here we're talking about. We can see there's cracking going on here around that spot weld. Let's have a look at a few real-life pictures and please pay extra attention to how the crack starts around the spot weld because of the movement we're talking about, and as well around this area here because this kind of acts like a large spot weld as we were discussing. Because of the lip, this right one here, hitting that spot weld, that's often blamed as the reason for this crack. I argue that's a simplicity. It's a little bit more complex than that. So you have the spot, the spot weld and the crack around it, but we also have this huge dent. So once you have the cracks around here, whether it's the movement I'm talking about or the lip hitting it. Once we create the dent here, we're stretching the material, and thus the crack propagates this way. And this crack propagates over here as well, and then it propagates over this way, and also up this way. So let's have a look at a picture again, and specifically the dent. When this kind of cracking occurs, then it rapidly accelerates, and the movement of the inside structure here starts being a lot more severe. There's also structure inside of here that is supported up here with these spot welds here. These are not cracked. They were, however, rusty in this case on this vehicle, so I just removed the rust and paint. Anyway, when you have that movement, these spot welds start popping as well. And in an extreme case, this breaks apart and pieces actually come loose. Let's have a look at an example of that. Let's wrap this video up by having a look at the various stages of the VinceSkinz and how they address various stages of damage. So in this case, there is no cracking here, or maybe microscopic. Well, if you have cracks here and they're limited to this area, perhaps a bit around here, perhaps a little bit over here, and or you want to, you have a crack in the rear left, you're installing the VinceSkinz, you want to reinforce this area with the dent. You want to make sure that there are no future damage. The base stage VinceSkinz is your choice. So it sits over like this. It covers this area here, covers the spot weld and small cracks over here. Now, if on the other hand the cracks have started propagating further but not past this point, they're up this way, you have some going on here as well, the stage 1 VinceSkinz is your choice. It again sits over like this. It closely follows this area, so it comes around here, comes around there further. You have support by, well, obviously the epoxy inside, the rivets up there, and it covers this area as well if you have cracks over here. Now, if the damage is even worse, so you have the crack going further up and you have these spot welds popped, and maybe there's some material missing here, and also or the crack has gone past this this bend here up this way. What you want in that case is the stage 2 VinceSkinz. So it obviously goes further up. It covers these areas with the pop spot welds. These rivets actually tie into the inside structure, not just the outer skin. Yeah, it goes up further here as well. But more importantly, let's see if I can get the, sorry about this. Again, I only have 2 hands. It also comes around over here. So if the crack has propagated past this bend up this way, the stage 2 VinceSkinz takes care of that. Now, in some cases, as we saw in the video, the pictures, the crack also continues here. So I have an option. You just have to tell me where I can add a lip coming out here as well, so it covers this. Let's have a look at a picture of that. With this and viewing the stage 2 VinceSkinz, I'd like to wrap up this and conclude the video. I hope this was helpful, and again, Thanks for watching, and if this was helpful or entertaining, or if you want to help me out spreading this video, please give it a like. Thanks for watching.